Hello and welcome to the Homeowner Prep Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Halan, and this podcast was created to provide real-world advice and accountability for first-time home buyers. We'll be interviewing industry experts, providing some how-tos, and talking with first-time home buyers about their personal experiences. If that sounds interesting to you, please be sure to subscribe, and if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the little bell to be notified when new episodes release. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Homeowner Prep. Today is a very special day. It's a very special interview. On this episode, we are going to have a first-time home buyer, and she's going to give you her background, kind of what she had to go through to eventually get the home that she wanted, and then kind of what her plans are going forward. I know that there's a lot of folks who are going through the process. You know, you're just now kind of getting ready to buy. You have a goal of buying, but you don't quite know how you're going to get there, and you don't really see the end, right now when you're kind of in the middle of it. And so it's important that we have some of these interviews and really talk to folks who have gone through it. So that way you can relate to their story and see that it is possible for you as well. And so we will have homeowner interviews quite often, because we do want to hear from the folks who have gone through it and see what kind of knowledge they can relay back to you. So today we are going to have Portia Mundy on the show. Portia is actually a longtime client of mine, a friend of mine. She was introduced to me through my sister-in-law, and she had a goal of becoming a homeowner, and she did it. I mean, she overcame a lot of obstacles to get there. She's there now, and she's already talking about what are the next plans as far as rental properties and things of that nature. So great to have you on, Portia. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm glad that you can make it. I really thank you for coming on and sharing some of your knowledge. I know it's not always easy. So, I just want to kind of dive into, what were kind of your inspiration or your motivation to even trying to buy your first place?
I think for me, it's just having something that was my own and not being nothing's wrong with renting, but just that's a big, huge purchase. And so it always has been something that I wanted to do, like own my property. I know in my family, not a lot of people own their homes. So just being one of the first in my generation and things like that, and, something for my kids to see and have something that I can continuously pass down to them. So that was one reason why I wanted to become a homeowner.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you kind of set the pace for the next generation. That's awesome.
Right.
You remember what year it was when you bought?
I bought in June of 2020.
June 2020. Yep. So not that long ago. Absolutely. Well, I mean, when you said, hey, I want to kind of change the path for the next generation and really kind of set things up so that the next generation see what you were able to do. Where'd that motivation come from? I mean, you said you're kind of the first in the family to do so. Was it just, something that was always in you? Are you the oldest? I mean, what is that coming from?
I am the oldest. But I think I don't know. I've always kind of had that drive and that motivation, but I would say my kids really motivated me they always push me to kind of want to do more in life. I have a responsibility. They look up to me. So that's where most of my motivation comes from, honestly.
Oh yeah, that kids will definitely push you. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's like we have no choice, so I got to make it work.
That's right. Yeah, and there's some things that we'll kind of dive into, but I really am inspired by your story because there's so many challenges that that most people would face in your situation that you pushed through and you made it happen anyway. And so we'll kind of touch on those, but I just ultimately I think the biggest thing for me is talking about generational wealth and generational, kind of changing the pattern that we saw, mm-hmm. right? So I think, as your kids saw you go through this, was there anything that, that they brought up or they said specifically that kind of was like, I'm glad I'm doing this, or I'm glad they're seeing it,
Yeah, I think just kind of making them understand or helping them understand the process of, not renting and kind of your owning, and then kind of just letting them know about credit, financial literacy, like certain things that I had no idea about growing up. No one talked to me until later on in life. And it wasn't really anyone talking to me. It's just me kind of learning through failed experiences and things like that. and then me wanting to research and look up things and read books and try to figure out on my own, all these things that were never really taught to me. So for my kids, I'm just trying to, about money, investments, credit, they're 12 years old and my oldest is 18, but just kind of pushing those things on them and keeping it in the back of their head so that when they hear it, they're like, oh, my mom talked about this, and kind of understand the importance of it. So I just keep trying to explain those things to them when it comes to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was going to say that because, I know that the 18-year-old is, coming to work in and stuff like that. It's just like, okay, it's go time now,
Yeah. And even just saving,
yep.
That's hard. I mean, it was hard for me. It's still hard for me, to save, but that is a huge piece. Saving is really important, to always have some kind of money put away, and, invest in that money. Those things are very important.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, teaching them as young as possible is important. And I think, one of the things that I, tell my kids is like, hey, if you look at the averages in America right now, Americans actually have a negative savings rate. Like we spend more than we make. And to actually become a saver or an investor is like anti-culture, like you're the oddball out because you're saving money or you're investing money, especially in particular cultures, and so it's important. I mean, I think that's vital. I'm glad that you were able to not only show them the process, but kind of explain to them along the way, like, here's why we're at where we're at. Because it takes a while just to even get ready to buy a house. Like, there's so much legwork that you have to do in front of that.
Yeah, there is.
So no, that's major. Was there anything that kind of stood out as like, your biggest fear about going through the process? Did you have any hesitations before you said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and go do this?
Yeah, because it was just me. It's me and my kids. So I would say, just taking on that responsibility by myself, and on my own, that was a big fear for me. That's a big, that's a large purchase in my life. So that was just a big fear of just kind of taking that on, and being responsible for such a large purchase for 30 years.
Right. It's a commitment, right? For sure.
And then it's like, you're your own landlord. So anything breaks in here, you got insurance, that will help cover certain things, but you pretty much got to figure it out from there. So that was my biggest fear. And that's what stood in the back of my head. Like, okay, something goes wrong, you better know how to fix it.
Right. Or know how to Google. I don't fix anything in my house.
Right. I'm like, please don't let anything break.
Right. No, definitely, the pride of home ownership comes with the responsibility of home ownership. So I think that's another lesson in itself that, is vital that we teach. And so, when you're kind of like going through it, okay, it's just you and the kids, I think that's vital because, you'd be surprised how many people I talk to. They're like, well, I'll buy a house when I get married, or I'll buy, somebody's going to have to take care of me. We're going to need double income in order to buy a house, and all these different excuses that come about, but it's like you had those same challenges, and yet you figured it out. I know you were working more than the average person. You were grinding, right? Tell us a little bit about that, like how much, you were working and doing your thing and, in order to save up and make it happen.
I worked a lot, just kind of being responsible for my kids and, all the other responsibilities that I have, just kind of running my cleaning business, working a full-time job. I mean, kids being in sports, I was just constantly going. But, I had a goal. I wanted to buy a house. So I just kept my eye on the prize and, kept doing it. I knew it was only temporary time frame that I had to work that hard to get to where I wanted to go. So yeah, it was a lot of work though. You do have to put in a lot of work to get there. But when you get there, then you can kind of scale back just a little bit. I mean, unless you got other goals, then you want to keep going, to get up, which I do, I'm always kind of busy.
Yep.
But I mean, yeah, it is a lot of work. And I did a lot of grinding. I put in a lot of work and time to be able to get to where I am today.
For sure, for sure. And that's respectable. I mean, the grind, the sacrifice that it
Mhm.
takes. I always, start out with a conversation with every new home buyer, and conversations that we had, okay, yeah, you want to buy, but why? What's going to push you there, because there hasn't been, this perfectly smooth home buying process and experience. There's going to be
Right.
obstacles that come up, things that you didn't think about,
Mhm.
additional costs or whatever the case may be. And it's like, you need that why to push you through, and lucky for you, I
Right.
mean, you got the
Right.
kids there, you got your why right there, like looking at you like, let's make this
Yeah.
happen. So no,
Yeah.
that's big for sure. What was there anything, I know that you're kind of like setting the trend for the family, so you kind of didn't really have a lot of experience with the home buying process. Was there anybody there to help you along the way? I mean, obviously, like you have agent and a lender, but like, was there any family support, anything like that to help you get there?
Um, I didn't really tell a lot of family that I was purchasing a house. But I had some people that were mentors to me that were older that had a house. So they kind of share with me some of the things to expect when kind of going into it, and yeah, I really didn't tell a lot of people that I was going to do it because I really honestly didn't think it was going to happen when it happened. It was, I had a goal, but I didn't think it was going to happen as quick and smooth as it went. So, um, yeah, I
I
didn't
yeah, I hear that
had advice.
often. Yeah, I definitely hear that often. People are saying, "Hey, I don't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody until it was
Yeah,
done."
I was like, this goes wrong.
Right, right. So yeah, no, that's definitely common. You just want to make sure. Like, I'll tell people when they get invited to the housewarming party. you know,
Yeah, exactly. Then you'll be like, didn't she bought a house? But
right.
I have friends. I did have a friend, my best friend, they've had a couple of houses. So, speaking to them too about their process and what to expect. And they just she kept my nerves down a lot, about, don't get so excited about the houses you see because you may not get that one. So that was something that I could expect.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's definitely helpful. Yeah, don't fall in love with the first one.
Yeah. Like,
Uh,
go in
uh,
there with a straight face.
Right, right. Yeah. It's one of the things, yeah. When you go in, and don't talk about how much you're gonna offer because there's cameras in the house. I think we had those conversations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, in a competitive market for sure. I mean, first time home buyers, they have a steep hill to climb. There's no qualms about it. Especially in the areas where you're at. You have people who are buying all cash. You got people putting large down payments down, and so being a first time home buyer is not, you're not at a, where it's impossible, but there's a slight disadvantage there, because it's like, hey, I'm coming
Right.
in and this is the first time that I've gone through this, so,
Right.
understandably, but I think that that's perfect. I mean, you got to have somebody there who's been through it, that can coach you through it. And
Yeah.
by you having a best friend that's gone through it, you're really trusting their advice and their guidance along the way. So that's major for sure. Is
Right.
there anything that you would change, now that you've gone through it, you're in the house, is there anything that you would have done differently maybe, or was everything as to, kind of your understanding?
No, honestly, I think everything was, I think everything went how it was supposed to be. I think when I bought my house, I bought it at a good time. It was right at the peak of the pandemic. I wanted more house, but I think what I got was what I need.
There
So
you go.
I'm very thankful with the process, and what I purchased. And it's just for me. It's for me and my girl. So I'm really happy with how everything went and played out for me. So really smooth transition.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I know we've talked about some plans of rental properties and investing in it, which is perfect. I mean, I strive to really help first time home buyers, like, okay, what's next? Think of real estate as an investment, and especially as you were buying your first place, think about who would want to live there, and how this place is going to cash flow, and just having some of those conversations is awesome because you are nervous
Yeah.
about going through it, but you have to think about these times now that you're in there ahead of time. you know so are
And
there
even just looking at now, houses skyrocket. Like it's so expensive now.
Yeah, you got a lot of appreciation value.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
So glad I got in when I did.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Is there anything now as a homeowner that, caught you off guard, or is there anything like, hey, oh, I didn't know about that? Or, I know we kind of talked maybe about like, oh, repairs or anything like that, but anything that now that you're in there, you're thinking like, dang, I didn't know that I had to I had to deal with this or HOA issues or whatever.
There's a lot of bills or some extra bills that you may get in the mail. You're like, what is this? Like, I didn't know I had to pay for this. But they're not so dramatic or so bad, but it's just extra things that you probably wouldn't expect that you had to pay for. But no, other than that, no, it's probably like 2 extra bills maybe.
Okay. So not too bad then. Well, the kiddos definitely know, what to expect because you've been there, you've done it. Kudos to you for doing it as a single parent and just making it happen. I know that there's a lot to come. Since you've been a homeowner, yes, you have a lot of value in that house. So it gives you some options for sure.
Super excited.
You gave yourself a raise, When you closed on your house, was there anybody like in your circle, people that you knew, friends or whatever the case may be, that started to put some plans in motion now that they saw you do it? Maybe they had an idea to do it themselves.
Yes, definitely. Like my siblings, friends, they all were kind of inspired to want to buy a house. Like, oh, I need to get on the grind. I need to do this, and they're kind of looking at different things and avenues that they can kind of work on to help them get to that point. Some of them are there and they're just waiting on the right time to, that they feel is the right time for them to purchase. So it really helped kind of motivate just my inner circle into wanting to buy a house.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know that some folks who are renting now. I'm sure that it's like, come on now, you see me do it. It's time for you to do it. So
you can go ahead and do it.
Yep, yeah. Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you just coming on and just sharing, the experience. I know that, like I said, one of the things that really stood out to me about, helping you buy that first place was, hey, you're a single mom, you're doing it, you're making it happen. You sacrifice and you grinded to make sure that you can build up the income and do the work that was needed. And to be totally honest, like you had a fairly smooth process. I never had complaints, like you were just like, let's go. And maybe because you had, a good friend in your ear kind of coaching you along the way. But, I think that speaks volumes and it ultimately gets you to the closing table and getting the keys in your hand, because it's like, you know what, I'm here to do whatever it takes. And so I think that is major. And I definitely, appreciate you coming on and just sharing that knowledge with us. So thank you so much. At the end of the day, we have these interviews for homeowners because we really want to make sure that we're sharing insight from people who have gone through it. The whole purpose of this podcast is to really share some behind the curtains, behind the scenes types of activities that are needed in order to make sure that you can buy a house. And so if you're, obviously if you're renting, if you're thinking about buying a house and you're just kind of figuring out, how do I make this happen? These interviews are for you. Hear from folks who have done it, relate to the stories that they share. And in the preparation of buying a house, hopefully these interviews that we have on the podcast will encourage you and motivate you to, just take this first step. And taking that first step, for us, the first step is always just visiting our website. Visit homeownerprep.com. You can download a free ebook by visiting homeownerprep.com/ebook. And that book is actually just taking you through that journey, give you an idea of what to expect as you are going from renting to home ownership. And so definitely visit our website, download that link. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. You can always reach out to us on any of our social media channels and also on YouTube as well. So I hope that you enjoyed today's interview. We're going to have plenty more to come. And if you have any questions, like I said, definitely reach out. I appreciate you checking out the episode. Share it with a friend, and we'll see you next time. I hope you got some value from today's episode. If you know someone who could benefit from hearing this show, be sure to share it with them. And if you're listening to the podcast, we'd love for you to drop us a review. We'd also love to hear from you if you have any questions. So reach out to us on Instagram at Homeowner Prep. Who knows, we may read your review and answer your question on one of our future shows.